Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I said welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast with Andy Ruther and Joe Prano. Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Ruther, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, with my co-host from Port Hueneme, California, Joey No Chill Prano.
Hello, Andy.
Afternoon, man.
Morning.
Afternoon, morning.
Morning here. Time zones. They're
What's
crazy.
good? What's good?
Oh, not much. What's going on? Watched that game last night. Snowy game. I've been doing I joined the gym here, and I've been, it's great. The technology is great these days because now I can go to the gym. For example, I went to the gym on what would that have been? Wednesday night, and I'm basically watching the Knicks game at the gym. Like, got my phone, working out. So yesterday I was like, this is great. Snowy game. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'll watch Browns Steelers. And then as I was getting ready to go to the gym, I was like, arms like still kind of sore from yesterday. I haven't been able to like extend it all day, but just my right arm. And then I was like, my arm hurts. And I showed my fiance, and she's like, are you fucking mentally ill? And I was like, what? She's like, your right arm is like 4 times bigger than your left arm right now. She's like, you didn't just get like some Arnold Schwarzenegger pump on one side of your body last night. She goes, you're swollen, you idiot. You tore something or you strained something. So something's wrong with my right arm. I can't extend it. I guess that's what I get for trying to go, watching Jalen Brunson light up the Phoenix Suns and getting all amped up, maybe going too hard at the gym.
Guys, in other news, he hurt himself jacking off.
I wish I jacked off that aggressively.
I mean, that would be an angry sesh.
Yeah. Honestly, jacking off is about probably the only thing I can do because you don't really have to extend. I mean, you'd need a 10-foot dick to have to go full extension on your arm.
The gyms are great now. I actually joined a new one last month, and I love, like, they have an app. I know it sounds so stupid. My old gym didn't have this, but just like being able to reserve a pool lane, or the little things about like signing up for classes on the app.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have technology now, man, like I you got, like, I'm lost.
I got to say, that's one of the great things about belonging to a gym in an essentially Mexican neighborhood. There's a 3-lane pool. There's no one ever in it. In fact, the other day I went in, there was a Mexican kid in there, literally just drowning. He was just like drowning back and forth. And then he was literally like, yo, bro, how do you swim? And I was like, I don't even really know how to answer that question, but but he's like, what's that thing you're like carrying with you? I was like, oh, it's a kickboard. I was like, you should get one, because if you can't swim, that's a great place to start. What I've always noticed fascinating always for people who can't swim is just like, I was like, you gotta be lying flat. And he's like, I don't understand. I was like, well, your feet are like down, like, we gotta get you laying flat.
Wait a second. Let me get this straight. You went to swim and then you became a swimming instructor?
Yeah. Mexican swim instructor.
Did you give him like a pair of Raiders floaties?
I should have. I had a black and white kickboard. He's like, what's that Raiders surfboard you got?
Oh, man.
But yeah, no one ever in the pool because Mexicans, not great swimmers, apparently. You never hear about the Mexican Olympian in the 200 breaststroke.
I don't think it's ever happened.
Yeah.
Ever.
Which is so funny because they're always like wet backs. And it's like, yeah, you don't actually have to cross any water whatsoever to get to America.
Well, the Rio Grande. But it's
They're
not
waiting.
much.
That's why that's why his legs are down.
I've seen
he
it.
was swimming laps in the pool the way he crosses the Rio Grande. He was just like walking with his gym bag above his head.
So when I went a couple weeks ago, I had a reserve lane and there was a little Asian girl in there and her mom was sitting there and the air quotes lifeguard walked over and she's like, "Do you have this lane reserved?" And I said, "Yeah, she's got 2 minutes until 2:00. It's 1:58." And then I said, she goes, "Do you want me to kick him out?" I said, "You can do my dirty work, but I also have no problem walking over and telling a little girl and her mom, you got to go to the lane over."
Well, so they were in a lane that they didn't have reserved.
Correct.
Not just they had 2 more minutes of their.
No, she wasn't swimming. You know how it is. It's just I don't care. It's just a kid playing, but it's like once my time is here, get your ass over there. And go make me a cake, bitch.
Make you a cake?
I'm gonna be hungry after I do these last.
running some sort of bakery sweatshop?
No, that's for the mom. Go make me a cake. Go make me. I don't know. You know, cake would be good after a swim, right? Like you want to eat. Remember when that thing was? Remember it was? I think it was 2008, and that was the big news. All the calories Michael Phelps would take in and all the food he would eat before his training. Did you remember that at all?
Yeah.
Like it was like a worldwide thing. They were like, "Look at the calories." That in fact, here's a random thing for you. And I know we've brought him up randomly before. Sandy Danto tried to eat all the Michael Phelps calorie diet and then swim. Like it was almost ahead of its time when he worked at National Lampoon, when they had a radio show on Sirius XM or XM, whatever it was at the time. Like my point is he was almost like 10 years, 15 years ahead of his time, because that would be a thing now.
Yeah. That's great. Just the 70,000 calorie diet and then
try to get in the pool.
Yeah.
As a big fat person and see how long you last. So you did watch the game though last night.
I did, yeah. And then I ended up just sitting there watching the game.
I'll tell you what, man. Those are fun games to watch, those snow games.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't get them that often when it's that much snow.
Can I add something to this? I don't need your digital lines. I don't need it. Get your digital lines the fuck out of here. What benefit is it to me to see, like, you really think that's changing my experience? Oh my God, did they get a first down? I'll find out. I don't need your line. I want the snow, how the snow is on the field. I do not need digital yardage markers. Certainly don't need digital every yard markers. I mean, they have the ability to digitally line the entire field. And my girlfriend's like, is it like cloudy? And I was like, those lines aren't real. I was like, you can see the snow beneath them. I don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the viewer experience is obviously good when it snows, regardless. I don't necessarily need it either. I think we all see. I mean, Mike Tomlin's going like this. The snow is just blowing in his face and it's getting stuck in his beard, and you can tell it's insane weather. But those are fun games to watch, and of course,
to me, it's like the people the line helps don't need it, and the people the line doesn't help could have all the information in the world and they'd never know. If my sister or my fiance or whoever was sitting there watching a football game, they could have a yellow line for the first down and then the green line for where the field goal range is. That means nothing to them. It means nothing. They don't know. They have no idea why that's on the field. For me, I don't need your digital lines. If Russell Wilson is under center and it's 4th and 8 or 3rd and 6 or 2nd and 2 or whatever it is, I don't need lines to know if he picked up 8 yards. I don't need them. I know exactly what 8 yards looks like on a TV screen from 1,000 years of watching football. Please leave your digital lines the fuck off my screen.
I do need a camera on George Pickens to see who he's fighting, though. That's what I want.
Did they never follow up on that?
I didn't watch the post-game show.
They didn't follow up on it in the immediate. That's for sure.
Final play of the game. You're the guy who catches some wild balls, and instead you're taking a fight into the bleachers, basically. What are you doing, man? I gotta give Justin Wood, Randy Ruther a shout out. He told me I had to, because he told me something I didn't know. You know that's Carl Pickens' kid?
I did not know that.
That's what he told me. He goes, "You better give me a shout out on Dirty Sports tomorrow."
I did not know that.
George Pickens is Carl Pickens, former Bengal receiver.
Yeah.
Who was pretty damn good. That's his kid.
I just remember him. He was wasn't he at Pitt and then SC and then to the league, and he was with Pickett, and then they were in Pittsburgh together.
I think he was an SEC guy. Let's see here. He was Georgia.
Oh, was it Addison? One of those guys. Who's the dude who was at the Pittsburgh receiver who was at Pitt and then went to USC?
But he didn't have insane numbers.
Yeah.
He's a 2nd-round pick. But
Jordan Addison. It was Addison.
Isn't he proof of what we always say? My point is 2nd-round pick.
Yeah. No, he's exactly that's what. Yeah, for sure.
He's 6'3". Last year he caught, what do you have? 1,100 yards. He averaged 18 yards a catch, which was the most in the NFL. You see what he's doing this year. It's like, again, I don't know how many times we're going to say this. I'm going to go on record right now. Speaking of paying wide receivers, I told Justin this last night in text. If I was the Bengals, I would literally trade Ja'Marr Chase after this year. And I know that's probably not a popular opinion. His haul will never be higher. My point
Here's the only problem with that. What do you even get for him? You're not getting a first rounder. Are you getting a first rounder for a receiver? Like,
yeah. I bet you could get 2 first rounders for him.
Here's the thing. You need to, if that's the case, you do it now, because the rest of the league is, again, 3 years behind us. Then we're 3 years away from, you'll never get a first rounder for a receiver, because in theory, what you're saying is, with any given, if you just own a first round pick, you can draft a receiver that is George Pickens to replace Ja'Marr Chase cheaper. Like, that's essentially what you're saying. So the idea of, I'm tuned into the fact that, like, you shouldn't pay this guy, that we're 3 years away from the league realizing no one should ever trade a first rounder for a receiver.
Well, I mean, I'm speechless, but you're right. I'm struggling on my words there. I mean, it's
and then the only caveat to that would be, you think you're going to win the Super Bowl this year. You're going to have 3 teams every year that then you could essentially target to trade, who think that they're one piece away and are willing to forego their first rounder for that. But then even that team, like, let's say you did try to trade him. Like, let's say you were trying to trade him right now. I know that's not going to happen, but, like, the idea of, you go to the Chiefs and you go, hey, you can have Ja'Marr Chase right now and win the Super Bowl. They're like, okay. They're giving you back what? The 30th pick?
Well, look, there's a lot of factors. And again, I'm using this as an example simply because the Bengals have no defense.
Yeah.
Like, none. And they don't have an offensive line. And they've never had an offensive line for Burrow. So that's why I'm not saying I would trade every stud receiver. I want to make that note. I'm not saying if Jamar Chase was on a different team, it could be different. I'm just saying he's on a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs. He is leading the league in yards, receptions, and touchdowns, or at least a few of those. He's on pace to do the Triple Crown possibly, like Cooper Kupp did a few years ago. I just think,
but hold on, just repeat what you just said. Just like Cooper Kupp did a few years ago.
Yeah.
You think you're getting a first rounder for Cooper Kupp right now?
No, that's my point.
That's my point.
Yeah,
that's my point.
no. My point is that your value is at an all-time high.
Right.
Like that's all I'm saying. And to go back to George Pickens, it's like, here's a guy, obviously his dad was a Pro Bowler. He's more raw in college. You look at his numbers. He never caught 1,000 yards. He had an injury. He's a second-round pick. It takes him a couple years to develop. But look at him now. And it kind of proves our point of, oh, I took a second rounder who went to Georgia, so he's obviously very talented, has the athletic ability, and now he's going to be a 1,200-yard receiver with 8-9 touchdowns.
And name one of the guys that Pittsburgh has done this with that they kept. I mean, you got to go back. Like Antonio Brown was there a lot longer than Mike Wallace and Santonio Holmes and Juju. Yeah, exactly. Hines Ward came in the league 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Mike Wallace, Santonio Holmes, Juju Smith-Schuster, like the list goes on and on and on of guys that were like, yeah, all right, bye.
Yeah. Well, we both called that game. I said on Substack, I said, I think the Steelers either lose tonight or next week to the Bengals. And there's a chance they could lose both for sure. I just felt like they were winning too many close games. And they obviously, their defense last night, surprisingly, gave up some points in the fourth quarter, and they struggle in the red zone. Dude, if I'm them, their offense, just have Russ throw it deep. That seems to work with Pickens. Just have Russ throw it deep. The short stuff doesn't seem to work for them, especially if they're not running the ball. And Jameis almost Jameis that game. He was so close to Jameising that game.
I mean, he did Jameis that game, and then Pittsburgh just couldn't like take advantage of it down the stretch. But to be up, they were up what
18-6.
Yeah, I was gonna say 12 points
in the fourth quarter in a snow game.
Fumble, pick.
They scored on Pittsburgh scored touchdowns on both those.
Yep. I said something yesterday, and I just want to read it. Like, I want to talk. We can talk about Jameis or whatever. Like, who gives a shit? It's the Browns. Now you're 3-8. None of this means anything. Honestly, you're kind of dumb for even winning games at this point. But that's, the NFL. All the fans are there in the snow. You get them. I mean, if the Browns are dumb enough to give Deshaun Watson all that money and trade all those picks and see how that went and re-sign Jameis Winston to be their starting quarterback, they deserve everything that they get. But that's neither here nor there. I continue to be shocked. I don't know if people are trolling me or what. Like, I don't think Jameis Winston's on-field fucking comments post-game, I don't think they're funny. I don't think they're interesting. I think we're all laughing at the retarded kid making a layup at the end of a game. It is cringe as fuck to me. And I have a theory, because I never understood these people either. The Twitter sphere, the internet, social world, the people who hated Bill Walton doing TV are the people that think Jameis Winston is hilarious.
That's interesting.
Remember how there was this like weird contingent of people that were like, get Bill Walton the fuck off my TV screen.
Yeah.
And everybody else was like, this is the funniest, most brilliant. Like, he's single-handedly making college basketball interesting. And you don't like it?
And he's well-read, and he's
Who are you 37% of people that actively hated Bill Walton? I'll tell you who you are. You're the people who are like, Jameis Winston with another absolute fucking classic pregame. He's mentally like deficient.
So I'll say this to add on. You and I are probably the only ones. I'm being serious. I feel like we're the only ones with this stance.
It's like even like who's brainwashed? Like Ryan Fitzpatrick's like, isn't it hilarious? No, it's cringe as fuck, dude. It's pathetically cringe.
Well, it's like
it's a special needs kid getting the mic before the game.
Well, that's what that's what I was saying to one of the dirtballs that tweeted at me, because he sent me a gif of Bobby Boucher, because I always call him Black Bobby Boucher. And this is what I wrote back to him. I said, it's the equivalent if the special needs kid who gets in the game, who's the water boy for the high school team, basketball, football, whatever it is, when they put him in the game.
And he makes that layup, and then they do an interview with him after the game.
And he's the quarterback in the NFL. But that's what I'm saying. It's the equivalent of like he does an interview, but also he somehow made it to the NFL as the special needs kid who's also the water boy.
If you think it's funny, I think that you're a loser. I can't think of anything less comedic to me. It's sad to watch. It's pathetic to watch. I don't understand if people are trolling him. Like when Pat McAfee says like Jameis Winston, just an absolute gem, another gem. Like, are you trolling me?
They're not. None of them are.
It's so fucking pathetic to me.
Let me just read some of the captions on this. Let me just read a few of them.
Jameis, first ballot Hall of Famer for his interviews alone.
Adam Schefter last night. Jameis can talk pregame, halftime, or postgame anytime he wants. Adam Schefter later. Jameis Winston is a national treasure.
I'll never understand it.
There will never be another Jameis Winston. Bleacher Report. Jameis Winston dropped some heat ahead of his primetime match versus the Steelers. Bussin' with the boys. They could never make me hate you, Jameis Winston. I mean, all of them. Every single person on here.
Every single day of my life, I'm like, yeah, this is what we are. Like, every single day of my life, I'm like, people suck. People are fucking dumb losers. I'm not surprised that this person's famous, that this person's got a following, that this person, like, these people, like, if you find Jameis Winston funny, I think that you can't have an IQ over 85.
The NFL is better with Jameis Winston playing. I mean, it's all. Here's my thing. I would like to ask some of these people, like, on a serious level, what is funny? Like, what is funny about the kid with Down syndrome being your quarterback? You know why else it's not funny to me? Because he's trying so hard. I think he knows this, as stupid as he is. He knows.
But here's the thing. He knows, and he's trying to be funny, and it's cringe as fuck, and people are eating it up.
But no one talks about that podcast with Deshaun Jackson, and who was it? Was it Gerald McCoy? Some of his former teammates on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who were like, dude, it's cringe. He wasn't supposed to speak before that Saints game. We knew we were going to lose.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that interview.
Like I just assume all of these people are sitting at home going like, man, I gotta go see that new Kevin Hart movie. It's just so fucking good. And you know what? While we're on it, you know who should have been a bigger star? You know who should have been an A-list actor leading movies? That Joey Lawrence. You remember him on Blossom? Just, whoa. He was so good. He was so good. He nailed every time he nailed it. Why didn't he become, why wasn't he a thing? I would have liked to seen him and Denzel in Training Day. You're like, what the fuck are you people talking about?
Like, if people were trolling and laughing because he's such a moron, that'd be different. But I don't think people are.
That's because everybody's dumb. That's what I'm saying. This is what we get.
But I also think most of these quote unquote sports fans, I think the nerdiness is kind of overtaken. Right? You see what I'm saying? Like the dork who never played ever or just loves stats and doesn't have friends or personality. That's the type of person who's like, he's a national treasure. That's why even like you see somebody like Pat McAfee or Bussin' with the Boys, and you're like, you guys think this is funny? Like he sounds like he took the short bus to school. Again, as
I like Snow.
Your quarterback,
I like
man.
Snow. I'm going to throw footballs and I'm going to throw snowballs. Because I'm playing in the snow. If I score a touchdown, I'm going to make a snow angel. I like Snow.
Yeah, he sounds like
I like Snow.
You know what you're doing? You don't even realize you're doing.
Have you seen my huddle?
Yeah.
Snow.
You are doing. You're doing the Something About Mary brother. I mean that's the brother. I like baseball. Have you seen my baseball? I mean that's literally what's crazy to me again is he's not just some random.
We're the Browns, but Snow's white. It's white and brown.
He's the quarterback, man.
Yeah.
He's not some random defensive end or some nickel cornerback. He is the most important position on the field, and he's just so stupid. He's so dumb. He's so dumb. He's been a backup for 5 years now. There's a reason. There's been a reason he's been a backup.
What's so funny too is like this quarterback matchup. It was the quarterback matchup. Like I was just like, yeah, this game's going about how I thought it would with these two guys who I both like. I'm a Jameis Winston / Russ Drew. What's amazing is Russell Wilson cringe as fuck. Everybody called him out for it. Like I was like, you guys were all right. It was cringe as fuck. Can you imagine if they were like, man, these Subway commercials, Russell Wilson's a national treasure. Like, how do you guys like? You know what the other thing is? I feel like people don't even have opinions of their own. So they just follow the opinion. Like if Pat McAfee and Adam Schefter put his national treasure, like, oh, I'm supposed to like it. I'm supposed to like it. Okay, I like it. I like it. It's like you're allowed to have your own opinion. You're allowed to be like, maybe the guy without sleeves isn't tuned into highbrow comedy.
Well, I think there's definitely merit to that. I think people don't want to think outside the box for sure. But again, one last thing on it. He was the number one pick. Like, guys, it's a bizarre thing to not view him as just a total bust. Do you see my point? Like we somehow get lost in this. He was the Heisman winner, national champion. So basically, Joe Burrow, Heisman winner, national champion, number one pick. That's Joe Burrow. The bar is up here. Joe Burrow is, we know what he is. My point is, You don't, you're nowhere near that. Why don't we?
Exactly my point. We're obviously going to talk about the Giants quarterback situation, but Jameis Winston gets treated in the exact same way as Tommy DeVito. They're like, oh, look at it. He eats cutlets. Oh,
Yeah,
isn't it great? Like, look at him. He wasn't supposed to play.
he's Italian. He loves pasta.
Oh, he's Italian. Oh, we should dress him as Luigi when he comes into the stadium. Oh, it's hilarious. He's from New Jersey and he's playing in New Jersey. Oh. James Winston was the first overall pick. They're like, oh, he's mentally ill. No, he's got Down syndrome. Oh. And he's playing for the Browns and he's brown. No.
Yeah, again, it's weird. There's nobody's talking about how he's just arguably one of the biggest busts in NFL history. So Daniel Jones asked to be released.
I can't wait for him to come back on the Cowboys and everybody be like, Dimes is back. Oh, it's the Dime Man. Oh, look at him. He had to get cut from his original team because he sucked, but he's diming. Oh, look at him. You should bring out a roll of dimes.
Do you think anybody will actually pick him up mid-season? Because I believe they're on the hook for that $11 million left.
Well, who's on the hook for it? The Giants are.
No, I think the team.
I don't think so. I think only if they pick him up via waivers. I think he's going to clear waivers.
What does that mean?
So essentially, yeah. So if you put in a waiver request for him, then you're saying I'll pick up that money, but then it's then there's an order as to like if multiple teams put in the waiver, only one team can get him, but you have to be willing to pick up that money. So if he had value,
okay. I'm reading it. Yeah, now Jones will go on waivers following his release and is likely to be claimed by another team with $13.8 million of guaranteed money remaining on his contract.
Right. So if he clears waivers,
I gotcha.
Then the Giants pay that money, and then he can sign with whoever he wants for nothing essentially because he's going to make $13 million anyway.
Would the Cowboys really do that?
Would the Cowboys? I don't know.
They're saying that he was on their website and they took it down.
He was on what website? The Cowboys website?
You didn't see this?
No. As like somebody that they picked up already?
Yeah, they're claiming that like his picture wasn't there and they took it down. Let me pull this up. I saw it. It's where it said. I mean, who knows if this is true? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's true.
Let's listen. Daniel Jones has been bad, especially this year and last year, but a lot of worse quarterbacks have been picked up, have gotten a second shot. So yeah, I would not be surprised if he ended up on somebody's team even this year. Certainly won't be surprised if he ends up on somebody's team next year.
His career arc is probably one of the most bizarre ones I've seen. As far as the quarterback position. He was always kind of in no man's land and then won a road playoff game, and he played well that game against the Vikings. So then he gets the contract. The team's not good. He's never had a good offensive line. But these are all factors, right? He also hasn't played well. He's turned the ball over way too much. I think it's definitely great for both parties.
Oh yeah, it's great for both parties. But here's the thing: you can be critical of Daniel Jones, which I mean, he certainly did not. He didn't pan out in regards to being a top 6 pick in the league, and then I mean, everybody agreed what the fuck does it cost you to pick up his 5th-year option if you're unsure about him, but then you don't do that, but then he wins, but then you don't franchise him, and then you pay him, and then you have to franchise Saquon, and then that ends up leading Saquon. It's like mismanaged all around. Here's the thing, though, and I got to be careful here, obviously, because of my relationship, but the Giants at this point, and I understand Dable. I understand the position that you're in right now where you can't fire your coach every 3 years.
Yeah.
You just can't. I mean, look at the Steelers. They've had less coaches since TVs were in black and white than the Giants have had since Tom Coughlin. You can't fire your coach every 3 years. But there is a situation here where you say, okay, you guys were brought in, the GM and the head coach were brought in, and they were handed a quarterback that wasn't their choice. And they got a road playoff win with him, and they were able to accomplish this. But then the next 2 years after that, whatever. Daniel Jones did not become in any way, shape, or form what the Giants were hoping he became. But my opinion of Brian Daboll has been affected in the negative as much as my opinion of Daniel Jones in the last 2 seasons. You look again at the Jared Goff Rams situation. Sean McVay did everything with Jared Goff he believed he could. And then they moved on. Getting to winning a road playoff game with Daniel Jones and saying, this is as good as I could do with this guy. I want my own quarterback. Is okay. But you did that two full seasons ago. You didn't do that last year. And you didn't move on from him right after you did that. You didn't go, that's as good as we're going to do with this guy. You had 2 horrible years after that. You have not made it easy on the guy. You're not putting him in situations to achieve despite your lack of talent. This is the Daniel Jones issue is a Daniel Jones issue, but it's also a bigger issue for the New York Giants as a whole.
Well, look, I think we sometimes forget when you've had a long tenured franchise QB like Eli Manning. Take any of these franchises. When you've had someone there, how many years did he play? 17, 18?
Yeah. 16, something like that.
Well, regardless, let's say 15 years. Let's just do the minimum. When you have somebody there 15 years, the backbone, like the rock, the foundation of a franchise, I think sometimes we forget how great of a thing it like that is to have that you can lean on.
Oh, and I will say this in to add on to that point. I think the beginning of the Giants failure, a lot of people will be like, the beginning of the Giants failure was not moving on from Eli Manning long enough. And I'll say I vehemently disagree. And I think where the Giants franchise failure started was not saying, we have a coach, we have a quarterback, we have them on their last legs, we have 3 years of a window left. You keep Tom Coughlin, you keep Eli Manning, you figure out a way to make your defense better and your offensive line better, and you give them one last shot, and you try to keep relevancy. The idea of the switch over to Eli Manning's end of his career with Ben McAdoo and Pat Shermer and all that, that's where this thing, oh, you guys, you hung on to Eli Manning too long. How is that working out? Everybody wants to point out, Oh, you could have drafted Pat Mahomes. Yeah. 10 teams could have drafted Pat Mahomes and didn't. So what the fuck are we talking about? Well, Ben McAdoo wanted probably, I'm assuming, and this is no inside knowledge. I'm assuming Ben McAdoo wanted a new quarterback because he didn't want to coach a quarterback that knew infinitely more football than he did, was way more respected in the locker room than he was, had achieved way more than he did in the world of football. I don't think old fuckhead McAdoo wanted guys looking at him and going, why the fuck would we listen to you when the guy who's actually in the huddle takes shits that know more football than you?
You see it with franchises, though, is my point. You very rarely, in fact, it's the total minority of the situation. Do you have like a Packers? I mean, people don't realize that you go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers now to Jordan Love, who seems like, my point is like they're really not missing a beat. That's an outlier. That's totally rare. And that's why I bring up the Eli Manning thing is you had a safety net essentially for 15 years. You knew what you had. When you go back out into the wilderness, it's not easy, man.
And you benched him for Geno Smith because you're a fucking moron. And then you benched him for Daniel Jones. You know what the Packers never did? They never put Aaron Rodgers in for Brett Favre. They never put Jordan Love in for Aaron Rodgers.
It's true. It's a good point.
Because you got to think about this is not a college program where every 4 years you have a total different mix of people. Look at what you can be critical of what the Steelers did in moving on from Ben Roethlisberger too late, but they were riding with their guy. They were riding with Tomlin, and they were riding with Roethlisberger. And it wasn't great at the end, but then the transition on to the next thing is easy. You get Kenny Pickett in there, he doesn't work out, you move on. You're now not sitting in this situation. You go, look, we did it. We know what a great quarterback and a great coach together are able to do. And this ain't it. You're out, this guy in. Go get me a veteran quarterback. This guy out, this guy in. The Giants are now 6 years removed from stability.
But that's, yeah, exactly.
In the most important, the defense is an overall thing. The defense is multiple people. It's 11 guys. It's 12 guys. It's a defensive coordinator. The truth is your coach and your quarterback, Brady and Belichick, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, Joe Montana and Bill Walsh, Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin. You're removed from that consistency, that legitimacy. And this is a failure of Daniel Jones as a player. It's also a failure of a franchise, and it's a failure of a coach. Multiple coaches.
And that's kind of my point, is just the stability, the comfort level you have when you have a guy. And I'm talking across the board for all these franchises who might make the move too quick or make decisions, because it's very rare. It's very rare to go like the Packers or the Chargers. I mean, it worked out, right? You go Phillip Rivers to basically Justin Herbert. It's very rare to have these sort of seamless transitions. But I have to bring up, because Eli, they just released. He's now finally eligible. The Hall of Fame semifinalists were announced. There's 25 guys. And the Eli discussion will obviously be probably one of the biggest ones. But even in this list of 25 guys, there's a lot of good players on there. I don't know if they have a limit to how many guys can.
I believe they do. I believe it's 5.
Okay. I mean, look at this list. Like, just off the top of my head. Okay, so I said Eli, but I'm not going to name all 25, but it's like guys who I would put in the Hall of Fame for sure. Antonio Gates, Torrey Holt, Steve Smith, Adam Vinatieri, Reggie Wayne. Luke Kuechly's an interesting one. He only played, 7 or 8 years, but I mean, defensive player of the year, rookie of the year, all pro, first team all pro. He led the league in those 8 years, right? So he dominated at that position.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, he's a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and that's just a few of them. Terrell Suggs is an interesting one. Do you see my point? Like,
yeah,
like that's going to be an interesting list.
Who's the most deserving on the list?
Well, here's where it's interesting. Eli's the only quarterback on this list. Right?
Yep.
If you value the QB, which obviously we both do, I don't know if they make him a finalist right away. Which is like his resume is interesting, right? So you have every QB I saw. Let me just pull it up. I think there was an article on it. Every QB that's been a 2-time Super Bowl MVP is in the Hall of Fame, but one. I think that was the thing I saw.
And it's I don't even know if that's. I think every QB who's a 2-time MVP is in the Hall of Fame. I think every QB who has won 2 Super Bowls is in the Hall of Fame, except for
like Sammy Baugh or something like old.
No, the dude from the Raiders.
I forget. Yeah. No, you're right. So
Jim Plunkett.
Brady, Mahomes, Montana, Bart Starr, and Bradshaw, and Eli are the only multiple Super Bowl MVP award winners at QB.
And probably the only Super Bowl. Like, also, who else is a multiple Super Bowl MVP winner?
But like, I just brought up like Luke Kuechly, but like that's another interesting one. And actually, it's even better than I thought. During his 8 years in the NFL, he led every single inside linebacker in tackles, takeaways, interceptions, and passes defended. Like, does that mean he's a first ballot? People are going to say he only played 8 years.
Well, here's for me, Luke Kuechly is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and for me, Eli Manning is. And the reason is you can't argue that Luke Kuechly doesn't deserve to be in, and also argue that Eli Manning doesn't deserve to be in, because your arguments, don't work, right? So your argument for Luke Kuechly is he didn't play long enough, but your argument for Eli Manning is he accomplished everything because he played so long.
Yeah, I see your point.
To me, those guys are obvious first ballot Hall of Famers. And to be honest with you as well, where like everything, the other argument against Eli Manning is, oh, he won 2 Super Bowls, but team game. So team game that he won 2 Super Bowls, but team game that he is a 500 quarterback. So which one is it? He doesn't deserve to be in because his team carried him to the Super Bowl, or he doesn't deserve to be in because he didn't carry his team to. So either Eli Manning carried his team to a 500 record, or Eli Manning carried his team to 2 Super Bowls, or those are just team statistics.
Well, here's where it's interesting too.
I think Eli Manning gets in on the first ballot, and I also think that this should be the Jacob deGrom, the one San Diego Padres writer. Then not only do I think Eli Manning deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no questions asked, I want the names of guys who don't vote for him, and I would like their home addresses.
Well, what I was going to say was, You and I have talked about this. Eli was top 10 in passing yards. Stafford just bumped him out. My point is, I'm just going to name a bunch of them. You currently have, I mean, listen to this. Roethlisberger, number 5. Rivers, number 6. Ryan, number 7. Rodgers, number 8. Stafford, number 10. Russell Wilson, number 18. My point is, like, these numbers, and that's just one stat. But I guess the question is, like, what kind of value do we put on career passing yards and career touchdown passes?
Well, it's the same thing we put on him for anybody else. We were beside ourselves that Terrell Owens was second all time in yards, but he wasn't in the Hall of Fame.
But so let me just ask you this then. I'll just ask you straight up then. Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford are all top 10 passing yards.
Yep.
Are you letting all those guys in the Hall of Fame?
Well, let me ask you something. Ben Roethlisberger in the Hall of Fame. Well, let me ask you something. Which guys, you got Eli, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford,
Phillip Rivers.
Those 5. Who do you think of those 5 deserve to be in the Hall of Fame and who don't? You can say all 5 deserve to be in, or you can say 2 deserve to be in, or you can say 1 deserve to be in. Of those 5, who do you think are in the Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm starting with Roethlisberger and Eli, like those 2.
That should be in.
Yeah.
Because?
Well, because what's that?
They won Super Bowls.
They won Super Bowls.
Yeah. So what are we talking about here? Like, we all know. We all know the difference between Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers had better teams, didn't win any Super Bowls.
No, I know, but my point is, okay, after that, it gets interesting. It's like Matthew Stafford is a very interesting case. And I know a lot of people would think I'm crazy even bringing him up.
For a Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Well, listen, he's not done playing. So where does he finish all time in yards plus the Super Bowl? Now, you got to also consider Eli Manning won a Super Bowl, and you're saying he won a Super Bowl because he was carried by his defense and blah, blah, blah. And he had Tiki Barber, and he had this, and he had Michael Strahan, and he had all that. So he didn't just exist in the no man's land of the Detroit Lions and just stockpile yards in the fourth quarter. What's Matthew Stafford's career record? Like, again, I don't give
he's 9 games below 500.
So Matthew Stafford would be judged on not getting into the Hall of Fame because he was drafted number 1 overall by the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's interesting. Like you said, Stafford hasn't stopped playing yet. If he plays again next year, he's going to cross 60,000 yards. He's only made 2 Pro Bowls. I look at Pro Bowls like, Pro Bowls don't matter as much to me. But like at the end of the day, if you, okay, I'm going to say, I've actually never thought about this. If you asked me Matthew Stafford or Phillip Rivers, I'm going Stafford led that game-winning drive against the Bengals in the Super Bowl.
Matthew Stafford was on the Detroit Lions, which contributes to his gaudy yardage numbers. But also, the second he was off the Lions, he won a Super Bowl.
But we have a wild Matthew Stafford call. I got to play it right now.
Great.
It's one of those calls where you're like, what, bro? This would never happen anyway.
What's going on, Dirty Sports? Hunter from Michigan calling again with a football topic considering the San Francisco 49ers. I think the San Francisco 49ers have to take a look in the mirror, see that they are sort of behind the 8 ball right now with their quarterback, Smallcock Brock. And I think that they need to take a playbook out of the book of another team out there in California. They need to trade immediately for Matthew Stafford. They need to get Stafford somehow away from Los Angeles. They need him in San Francisco. And I think Stafford at this point should just become what LeBron James should have done in the later years of his career. Just become a journeyman where every single team that's right there but needs a quarterback to put them over the edge, Matthew Stafford just steps in. This year needs to be the San Francisco 49ers. A year from now, it needs to be the Baltimore Ravens after Lamar goes down with his 57th Achilles or knee injury or whatever it is. And 3 years from now, Matthew Stafford takes none other than the Detroit Lions to the Super Bowl after the Jared Goff experiment abysmally fails for yet another time, another season. Actually, you know what? Screw that one. Lions deserve every single second of that dumbass throwing 5 terrible picks. I don't give a fuck what he did in Jackson. Screw Lions fans forever. You guys are all dumb. Anyway, that's Hunter from Michigan. Out.
Okay, first things first, Hunter. Appreciate the call. There's no way in hell their division rival is going to trade for they're not trading with each other. Also, Purdy is currently cheaper than Stafford.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, listen, I don't hate where his head's at in terms of like the Niners have been so close for so long, blah, 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 blah. And they've always been a quarterback away. He's still got thing and thing. But yeah, McVay's not handing the Niners Matthew Stafford.
So that's my point.
That's
and
then the first thing. Now you swap over to like, okay, Baltimore. It's just like, I mean, I like there's a better chance of him trading him to Baltimore, but like you're essentially saying before that has to happen, like, you know, Baltimore not only needs to figure out how to trade for Matthew Stafford, first they have to figure out how to get rid of their current GM who's all about Lamar Jackson and bring in me as their GM. Like, and
they just signed them. They just signed Lamar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I understand it. Like, it's good in theory, you know, the Randy Johnson trade deadline, Kevin Brown, Roger Clemens, ace pitcher, moves to wherever, puts him over the top. But like, it's a very flawed plan, including the Detroit Lions, who love Jared Goff. And I don't know. It sounds like maybe he's a bewildered or, you know, disgruntled Lions fan. I mean, he is in Michigan.
Well, I think he, you know, he's left calls that like how they treated Stafford, and we all know how that played out. But like, it was speaking of Jared Goff, like, this is your year, man. If there was ever a year, this was the year. And one last thing about the Niners, I was actually texting my buddy's a big Niners fan. He's going to be in Lambeau this week. And he like sent me an article about when they went on a big run in 2021 and made it to the NFC Championship, actually losing to Stafford and the Rams. I said, this isn't that squad, in my opinion. I do not foresee a Niners run because I don't think if you look at their defense, it's middle of the pack. It's 16th points per game. It's not the same defense that the Niners had the last few years when they went on those runs to a Super Bowl or to an NFC Championship. I just don't see that same defense.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the biggest hang up.
Yeah.
It's not the offense, it's the defense.
Right. Well, the defense was what made the team go. And then you had all these guys and you had the big playability and you had whatever, but it's like, what games were they winning, 42-40, it's that you had that as the base of the defense. Listen, again, this all kind of ties in together. It's like, we go back to the same thing, the question of Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame. It's like Brock Purdy and Russell Wilson and Matthew Stafford and whatever. Completely different players when they're on teams with good defenses versus when they're on teams with bad defenses. Joe Burrow doing a great little old school Dan Marino. They're like, this guy's gonna break every record in the book and not make the playoffs. Like, it's like cool story. I mean, is that not Matthew Stafford's career in Detroit? Like, my God, Matthew Stafford has led the league in yardage again, and they won 4 games. And you go all the way back to the same thing. It's like the return to the conversation. Eli Manning took the 17th and 25th ranked defenses to the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, it'll be pretty interesting, like I said, because there's a lot of good names in that list, and then they got to pick 3 to 5 for the finalist, and it's all on voting. So here's what I want to do. I'd like to pivot to some other things.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and do our week 12 NFL picks. Is that cool?
Yeah. Are we pivoting to basketball?
I want to pivot to some basketball.
Yeah. I want to do a quick thing because it was a request, and I like to honor requests, but we didn't get to a last episode. Bryce, who's a big Indiana Pacers fan, he tweeted at me that he wanted to talk about the New York Knicks. And I think he wanted me to talk about them in relation to the Indiana Pacers. Anyway, the New York Knicks are now behind only the immaculate starting Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 16-1, and the Boston Celtics, who are the defending champions and who have the 2 best records in all of the NBA. They're only behind them in the Eastern Conference. So the Knicks are currently 3rd behind the 2 best teams in basketball. And I don't know Bryce was like, are you going to talk about the Knicks next week? So, okay. So that's where the Knicks are at. I don't know if he wanted me to talk about them in relation. He didn't mention the Pacers, but the Pacers are 6-9, tied with Milwaukee for the last of the play-in spots, tied for 10th with Milwaukee for the last of the play-in spots. So I don't know if he wanted me to talk about them in relation. He maybe fired that tweet off a little bit early. And remarkably, I was like, yeah, I'll talk about them. And he's like, well, we've had a rough go. We have some injuries, which I also find ironic that suddenly after the Eastern Conference semifinal series last year, the Pacers are now realizing it helps to have all of your players. So we tackle. Bryce had a request, and I've honored his request.
So, there's a few things. Obviously, we can talk about the actual games and teams like you are and standings. I wanted to bring up a discussion topic because I was reading a report about ratings being down, but it's not your normal discussion about ratings being down, which is why I want to talk about it. So NBA ratings are down, and Adam Silver was saying, oh yeah, they're down, and he was blaming, it's the beginning of the year, and he's blaming the election, the World Series. But I thought it was interesting because I don't know if you saw it, Shaq brought up a whole discussion about ratings. And he said on his podcast, he thinks the 3-point shooting is making the game worse, and that's bringing in less viewers. He said, and I'm going to quote Shaq, I have a theory that the ratings are down because everybody's running the same plays. O'Neal said on his podcast this week, I don't mind Golden State back in the day shooting threes, but every team is not a 3-point shooter. The average team is shooting 37 threes a game this season, which is insane. That's up 50% from 2015. Boston is averaging about 50. So Shaq's like, hey man, this is not making it as enjoyable from a viewer. People don't want to just watch threes all day. I wanted to hear what you thought about that.
Well, I think this is, obviously this is something that we see across sports all the time. And I got to say, my great grandfather who said, I can't watch this football anymore. The forward pass is ruining the game. It's the wishbone. That's what we're here for. A running back and another running back leading the third running back through the hole. That's what I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see Army march over Navy as if it was World War II foot soldiers taking over a land bridge. Like the game's changed, man. Remember when the NBA was terrible because I don't want to watch Shaq shoot free throws and this hacker Shaq and it's ruining the game, and the guys sitting out games for load management is ruining the game. And I was like, why are NBA ratings down? I don't know. Why are boxing ratings down? Why is horse racing ratings down? Why is baseball ratings down? Why is any ratings down? Why is the Tonight Show ratings down? There's a million other things to watch. Now, we can talk about football, but football is a 17-game season. 17 games. And it all happens on the same day. And you only get your local game and you get it on a national TV screen. If you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, you turn on Fox 4 or whatever the fuck it is there, and you watch the Bengals. Not on cable, not on USA, not on whatever. And then 3 games a week are broadcast for everybody. It's like the idea, tell me a sport that exists besides the NFL where ratings are up. The UFC? And they're up from what? 20 years ago? Where the Gracies were fighting each other in gis? What sport is the ratings up?
So you think Shaq is basically just being a boomer here?
Yes. What does Shaq because here's the problem with that. What is your proposal?
And for the record, I don't necessarily agree either. I've never put on a game and said there's too many threes.
Here's what I think. Okay. I think the NBA is the beginning of the NBA season overlaps with playoff baseball and the start of football season. Okay. NBA is a long season. It's every other night. And I think that in the world of athletics now, I think there's a little bit of the NBA that's off-putting. It's like you're not even watching the same human beings as you. Everybody can put themselves in the shoes of Aaron Judge or a fucking MMA fighter or whatever. It's like, it's just alien. It's an alien sport. And so to me, when you get I'll call it the straight up fucking boomer types who are like, back in my day, they were tackling each other and hitting set shots. Yeah, it looked like you playing in the fucking driveway with your neighbor. And then you were blown away when one guy was like dunking the basketball. You're like, he's the greatest of all time. He dunks it. Now everybody can do all those things, and it's just alien to people. And ratings are down across the board. But again, what is the answer here? The answer here is don't shoot threes, lose all your games.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so let's say, what did I just say? The average is 37 3 shot a game. So you're talking 9 threes a quarter. Which realistically, if you want to break it down, 9 threes a quarter, there's 12 minutes in a quarter. That's a 3 every minute. It's not insane to me.
But like, I don't. Again, it's like, so what is your Shaq? What's your point?
Oh, I didn't need more big guys like me, dunking, slamming and jamming.
All right, cool. Some teams have them, and how's that going for them?
Like, but yeah, I think Shaq, and you can throw Charles Barkley. He's the same way. Like these guys, it's an old school. They came up in a different era.
And this is always my point. And I honestly, I've said it before, and I've said it 1,000 times. You just have never, ever, 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 ever understood the game of basketball. If you're like, the Bulls would fucking kill the 72 and 73 and 9. The current Cleveland Cavaliers team would beat the fucking 72 and 10 Bulls so fucking handily, Michael Jordan would retire 3 times again during the game. Like, back in my day, back in your day, they played a different fucking game. And there's a reason they don't play it now. If you could play that way and win, you would.
How legit is this Cavs team?
I mean, pretty legit. Like, it's really going to come down to, like, this is the other reason why NBA ratings are down, because there's a lot of bad basketball teams. Just like there's a lot of bad NFL teams. That's why the come playoff time, yeah, the NBA is way fucking better. They're trying harder on defense, and they're whatever. So like your potential success, your potential of a championship is going to be based on, do you have those guys who can take over games and dominate? Like, the Boston Celtics are so goddamn deep, and Jason Tatum, you can think about him whatever you want, but they're so goddamn deep, and they had a couple of those guys, including Jaylen Brown, who obviously, won Finals MVP, but Darius Garland is legit and has made a leap this year. So it's going to be interesting, because you have a Celtics team that you have to go through. You have a Knicks team that you have to go through that has, depth problems with their trade. But from an offensive standpoint, and obviously they were a defense first team last year, and have a great defensive player in Mitchell Robinson on the bench. You have a Jalen Brunson and a Karl Anthony Towns who are offensive machines. The same thing, you could say the same thing about the Knicks. How legit are the Knicks? Well, they have those guys. So those guys can go out and get 40 every single night in a playoff series. Can they balance it on the other side of the ball? Because the Celtics can.
Is there any turning around for the 76ers?
I mean, like, everything I know about 76ers fans is they think everything's fine, right? There's never been a more delusional fan base. The 76ers should have been the 1 seed last year if it weren't for injuries. And Zion Williamson would be the 4-time MVP if it weren't for injuries. And the Pacers would be the fucking whatever if it weren't for injuries. And the Knicks would have been in the NBA Finals last year if it weren't for injuries. Dude, you built your team around a guy no one likes, can't stay on the floor. Then you went out and you got Paul George. I mean, in terms of delusional fan bases, the Sixers fans who started eating horse shit in the street because they signed Paul George should go out and have cups of coffee for the guys who are like, oh, well, I guess it's the New York Jets for the rest of the millennium now that we've gotten Aaron Rodgers in there. Maybe don't sign past your prime stars that no one likes playing with.
Yeah.
But, the Bucks are turning around. I know our boy Osiris, he had a lot of, he wanted to chime in the offseason about how the Knicks shouldn't even be the Knicks. What about my Milwaukee Bucks? Don't sign overpaid old stars. Like the Bucks are now having a conversation of like they need to like they need a hot streak, or else they have to trade Giannis to save their franchise because there's no getting out of the Damian Lillard deal? Because who would ever take him?
Well, back to the ratings thing, and you're talking about. I'm bringing this up because you talk about over, guys past their prime, and a lot of people think people are getting turned off by stuff like this with the refs. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see this? This technical on Russell Westbrook for the stare down. Did you see this?
No.
I don't like those texts, bro.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
But I mean, that's part of the discussion that I've seen. People are like, dude, people don't want to watch any sport. Like if you're gonna tee him up, I know it's just 1 point, but for staring down a guy.
Yeah, but you know what I would say? This is the league. This is what the NBA and a lot of other leagues need to not do. They need to not think about your fucking fan. Like, I am sick of catering to the people that aren't watching. Stop catering to the people who aren't watching. Name me something in this world that people have left and gone back to. It's just like not what happens. You don't leave something and then go, man, I'll be back when they improve it. This is what baseball did with the Nets and what baseball did with the fucking pitch clock. We're losing our the people who left said it's too slow. Well, they're gone and they're not coming back. No one's going like, hey, we didn't go to a baseball game in 4 years, but did you hear about that pitch clock? We should go. What this is doing, what things like that technical foul are doing, they're catering to the audience. They're catering to, not to throw anybody under the bus because he's a nice guy, but like I'm using him as a embodiment of it. But it's like Joe Bartnick's like, act like you've been there before. You can't just hit a layup. You can't just hit a layup without the whole, the smacking of my chest and the flexing of the muscles and the staring guys down. Back in my day, guys made layups and they just ran back down the other way.
Yeah.
It's like, stop catering to those people. We need, we've heard a lot from our fan base that they don't like how boisterous these guys are. So maybe we should start penalizing them for being boisterous. Shut the fuck up. Let people go. You don't like it? In this day and age, this is in podcasting, in TV, in movies, in sports, in whatever. Every day, something else pops up to take your attention. Don't worry about luring in the new people. Worry about keeping the people that you have happy.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
If you're any sports league right now trying to figure out how to lure people over, you're done.
Yeah. I mean, it's true.
If you have existed in a thing, if you're the UFC, your brand, you're still building your brand. You can be like, this is what we're about. But if you're the NBA, you just need to be like, this is what the NBA is. You're either an NBA fan or you're not an NBA fan. You could argue, like Shaq saying, the threes. You could argue the NBA would be in a devastatingly bad place if it weren't for Steph Curry right now.
Yeah, and I think I would actually probably agree with that point.
You look at young kids. When I like see young kids,
dude, all they want to do is shoot threes.
They all want to be Steph Curry.
Which is, to bring it to you and I, when we were kids, all you wanted to do was try to dunk
Yeah.
because of Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Embrace your stars. And by the way, I'm sure that it was happening. I'm sure that in the 90s, when Michael Jordan was dunking, some fucking old head was like, oh, back in my day, a ball movement. It was all about ball movement. These guys don't move the ball enough. All this one-on-one, that's what I don't like. All this Showtime Lakers stuff. Behind the back passes? Who needs it? And when Magic Johnson was out, every kid was throwing a behind the back pass. And when Michael Jordan was out, every kid was trying to switch hands on a layup. And when LeBron James was out, that's what people do. And when Steph Curry's hot, they do this. And when Kevin Durant's hot, they do that. But you just sound like a fucking old head. When you go, the NFL, man, they need to get back to the wishbone.
You want to do picks?
Yeah.
Have you looked at the picks, Prano?
No.
You're in a big hole, bro. Last week was brutal. I got 5 on you.
Yeah, last week was brutal.
I'm up 10 points now, man.
Yeah.
You got to start making moves. It's week 12.
Okay. I'll make moves.
Okay. Just saying. You're a little behind the 8 ball right now. Andrew.
It's my worst picking year of the year of in history.
Pick'em Ruther. Andrew Nostradamus Ruther over here. Killing the game.
Oh, are you doing especially well, or are you just doing especially well compared to me?
I'm doing pretty well, which means I'm going to set myself up for a bad week. I'm doing pretty well in my pick 6 league too. So, but it's I attribute it to a lot of luck. You know how these games, they boil down to a lot of luck. But yeah, I've opened up a 10-point lead on you in our league.
I thought for sure I was pre-fading you yesterday, but you, like me, when push comes to shove, when bragging rights and money and all that on the line, you didn't believe in Russ either.
By the way, Russ played a fine game. What did you not like about Russ? Had a bad turnover. He also recovered a fumble.
Those really cancel each other out.
Well, from his running back, it was a bad fall. I'm just saying.
Yeah. That was one of the great Ruther moments of all time. It also recovered a fumble.
I just
they call it even.
I think Russ played a fine game yesterday, and I think I do like when they bring in Fields. I think it's an interesting mix. They definitely got to score more in the red zone. But yeah, that's why I said I think they're winning too many games in a row, and their schedule gets really tough. So they better figure it out, or they might be on the outs in a playoff. But yeah, I was definitely going to take the Browns. But let's see where we're at. Okay. So I'm up now since you went first. We'll start with Vikings Bears in Chicago. 3.5 point Vikings favorite. I'm going to ride the one. Did they win last week or did they lose? The Bears lost again.
Bears lost again.
I'm going to take the Bears to cover this, though. 3.5. I think that half point is
it's in Chicago.
It's in Chicago. Darnold can just be turnover prone. So
I'm also taking the Bears. Caleb Williams looking a little bit better. Starting to figure something out a little bit offensively. Division game in Chicago.
Okay.
Let me ask you something, because you just picked against them again. And I know we have a lot. We have Minnesota fans that have hated me for years. Vikings fans who have hated me for years. Again, you're welcome for saving your franchise by angrily screaming about how you need to get rid of Kirk Cousins for years, and you finally did. But I want you to do it, because sometimes I like to shift the attention to you. You called the Vikings contenders earlier in the year.
I did.
Are the Vikings contenders?
I'm probably getting a little lukewarm on that initial take. It's Sam Darnold. I'm just seeing visions of turnovers.
But Kevin O'Connor is a genius.
I think he's a great coach. I do. I'm ready to call Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a great coach. I think he's an underrated coach. I think even bringing in Flores was, in a way, that's a ballsy move as a franchise. And I'm sure, obviously, he has a say as a coach. That's a ballsy move, given that he was suing the NFL, suing the Dolphins. But he has completely turned that defense around. That's my big hang up. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a really good coach. The turnovers. Again, if I'm looking right now, if I'm looking at the I'm just going to pull up the standings here. If I'm pulling up the playoff standings in the NFC, I'm going to put the Eagles ahead of them as far as a possible Super Bowl run. I'm going to go Lions, Eagles, maybe even Lions, Packers.
There you go.
Then Eagles, then Vikings.
So you think the third best? You're starting to think that the third best team in the NFC North is maybe not a contender.
Look, I'm just saying right now.
Right.
I would give the edge to the Eagles over the Vikings too, because they've been there.
Let's leave the Eagles out of it for now. In your opinion, the Vikings have the third best chance in their own division of making a Super Bowl run? Okay.
Probably.
Cool. I'm just clarifying what you said. I didn't say any of this stuff. So Vikings fans can take it up with you for the week.
But again, I like their coach.
Right.
I do like their coach a lot.
You just think they have the third best chance in their own division of making the Super Bowl?
Well, I've explained why I think Sam Darnold.
No, I know. I just want to clarify what you said.
Yeah, I'm saying this right now.
I have no opinion on it at all.
You probably agree with me. I think Sam Darnold.
I don't need to be tagged. I didn't say anything.
Okay, well, I'm saying Sam Darnold's a question mark.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm taking the Bears to cover this week.
Me too.
Okay, we're on the same page. We'll stay in that division with our next game. Lions, Colts. This one is in Indy. It's a big favorite, 7-point favorites. So you're up first for this.
I pick against the big favorite Lions all the time, and I don't know when it's helping. I'm going to take the Lions to cover.
They keep covering, dude.
Right.
They just keep covering. But you know what? I'm picking them against them this week. They've done good for me this year. I'm picking on the big lines, but I'm going to go with Indy this week.
You're back on the Anthony Richardson bandwagon.
No, I'm not at all. I just think their defense will play well enough to keep it close. All right, Patriots, Dolphins. If the Dolphins win this, it does get very interesting for their playoff hopes. I think it'll jump a bunch. Miami's a 7.5 home favorite. It's a big spread. I'm going to take the Patriots to cover.
Same. I'm looking for opportunities to fade you in hopes of making up points, but that's not it. I don't believe in Miami. I don't believe in anything. I'm going to say it too. Some clip went around. Did you see the clip of Mike McDaniel and the dude from the Raiders? What's the DNs on the Raiders? Max Crosby.
Max Crosby?
You see this whole clip? This goes in the Jameis Winston cringe thing. Oh, Mike McDaniel, he's so fun out there. He's talking shit to the other players. It is the cringiest fucking shit I've ever seen. People who think it's not cringe are fucking dorks. I'm out on the Dolphins. I've been out on the Dolphins. I've literally never been in on the Dolphins. I'll take the Pats to cover. You got to pull the clip up, Andy. Put in Max Crosby, Mike McDaniel.
I mean, look, Max.
Mike McDaniel's a savage. He's talking shit to other players.
Let's pull it up.
LOL is so savage.
Was this last week?
I don't fucking know when it was.
All right, let's see what we got here. Mike McDaniel trolling Max Crosby after he jumped off sides. All right, let me just download this real quick. And you and I have talked about this for a while, by the way. Mike McDaniel, I mean, like they're trying to spin it like he's a cool dude, and I mean he's a Yale guy, right?
I don't know.
Right? He's a Yale guy.
I don't know.
No, but he went to Yale, right? He's an Ivy League guy.
Okay.
But my point is, like, he's just like,
I know where he didn't go. Prom.
All right, let's pull this up. Did this download? What's going on here? Hold on a second. Oh yeah, I got it. So this was so I somehow missed this week. So this was what everybody was saying. All right, here we are.
Max Crosby.
Neutral zone infraction. Defense, number 98.
Hey, we didn't have a play called, Max. We didn't have a play called, Max. We didn't have a play called. LOL.
That's it.
That's it.
Look at him with his glasses.
LOL. I got you to jump off sides. If you want to hang out after the game and get a beer, it'd be super cool.
You know who Mike McDaniel is? You know who he is? Or who the fans think he is? He's the biggest wannabe Sean McVay. Offensive genius, taking his team second year, took his team to a Super Bowl, wins a Super Bowl when he gets a quarterback he wants. He's a cool dude. Chicks know. Here's how you know. My girlfriend has always been like, yeah, Sean McVay. Like, she got a thing for him, right? Like, she finds him attractive. She finds him sexy, his confidence. Never said that about McDaniel. Like if games are on. Right? Like, Sean McVay just has that, how do you say it? Je ne sais. Say it. Je ne sais quoi?
Wow.
But don't you think I have a good point? Like, they're both from the offensive guy and they're deemed, but it's like McVay doesn't have to dress cool or act cool. He is cool. He was All-State Georgia. He was player of the year over Calvin Johnson in Georgia. Now, granted, he ended up going to Miami of Ohio, but my point is he still played D1. He was a wide receiver. That's who some of these people want. They think that's who you should be wanting to be.
Max Crosby's like, who's the guy yelling at me?
He
Like,
said
that's our
LOL.
coach. He's like, that's your coach? That's
He
your
said
coach?
He said LOL. He dork. Mike McDaniel is if Jason Garrett put on aviators, got a tan, and dressed a little differently. That's what Mike McDaniel is. All right, Bucks Giants. This one is at MetLife. 6-point Bucks favorites.
Who's up first?
You are in this one.
Hey, Tommy DeVito. Hey, Andy, let me tell you something. This is Tommy Cutlets. Let me ask you something, Andy, because I don't know how much you know about Italian cooking. Do you know how they get the Italian cutlets so thin? You know how they get them so thin? You know how they get them that way? Do you know? Serious question, Andy. Answer me. You know how they get them so thin? You know how they get the cutlets so thin?
Nah.
They pound them with a hammer. That's how they get them. Tommy Cutlets is going to get his ass pounded by the fucking Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's going to be a nice thin chicken cutlet when we're done because they're going to hammer him. I'll take the Bucks to cover.
All right, I'm taking the Bucks as well.
Hey, it's gonna be fun though, right?
I don't see a lot of points coming from the Giants. All right, I'm up this one.
So dude, it's like, I talk about the curse of Kaepernick. I talk about the fucking all the shit. Like, we're doing the sideshow shit now. This is a terrible situation to be in. Brian Dable's got exactly 4 months to sort his shit out, or else he can get fucked too.
All right, Commanders, Cowboys. This one is in Maryland. Damn. Commanders are 10.5-point favorites.
Wow.
I mean, the Cowboys are a mess. I'm still taking the Cowboys to cover. 10.5 is too much for me.
10.5 is too much. I agree, but I have to fade you. I'll take the Commanders. If I want to pick up a game, I'll pick it up and on the Cowboys being dog shit, or I'll lose another one. But I agree with you. 10.5 seems like way too much. But the fact that spread is 10.5 and not 6.5 is also why I'm taking it. Feels like it should be 6.5.
Yeah, I see your point there. I'm gonna regret it, but I'm gonna do it. All right, Chiefs, Panthers. This one's in Charlotte. Panthers are 10.5-point dogs against the Chiefs, coming off their first loss. Sorry.
Oh, I'll take the Chiefs to cover.
Yeah, I am too.
Coming off their first loss. I mean, let me tell you something. If the Washington Commanders are 10.5-point favorites in a division game against the Dallas Cowboys, then the best team in football should have a higher spread against the worst team in football.
That'd be an interesting discussion for worst team, though, I think.
Well, one of them.
Yeah.
It'd probably be an interesting discussion if you're delusional about the best team in football too.
Well, this is another bad team. Titans, Texans. This one's in Houston. Houston is a 8.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Texans to winning cover.
It's in Houston?
Yeah. It's a big spread.
Yeah, it's big.
I as you think about that, I did a chuckle last night. I don't know if you saw. They showed Mike Vrabel because he's got some consulting position with the Browns. So he's on the sideline, and I laughed, thinking, "You are so dumb, Tennessee. He's going to land a nice position, and he's probably gonna be able to pick. So dumb for letting him go."
Yeah. I want to take the Titans in a division game, but I'm not gonna.
All right, we're both on the Texans. Broncos, Raiders. Broncos are 6-point faves in
Vegas?
Las Vegas. You're up. Broncos looked good last week.
They looked really good. I'll take the Raiders. I'm getting down to the wire in my suicide pick, and I took the Broncos this week. And I think the Broncos win, but I also feel like they're going to make me sweat it.
I think it's going to be a close game too. I'm going to take
Fuck.
the Raiders.
You love the Broncos.
Where is this coming from?
You love the Broncos. You love Sean Payton. I mean, Sean Payton is one of your guys. It's one of the 4-6 coaches or players that you root for.
I don't know about that, but I do know that I think the Raiders will keep it close. You know what? Fuck you. You know what? I'll just do it. Fuck you. I'll take the Broncos.
Let's go.
Okay. I'll take the Broncos just for that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna regret.
to convince you to get on your
You
Sean
didn't twist
Payton,
me, Prano.
Sean Payton.
Brandon, I'm
Look,
whooping your ass so bad. I'm throwing you a bone. You're like my little daughter. I'll give you an extra. I'll give you an extra fruit snack.
It's hilarious. It's a hilarious thing to say, considering that weeks 14 through 16 every year are you spinning down a fucking drain. It's having like fucking. Literally, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what this like every year. You just go, oh, last week was bad. I got 2 right. And you've pulled even by only getting 8 to my 1.
I'll take the Broncos. Let's do it. Broncos country. Let's ride. All right, Niners, Packers. It says the makings for a nice little game. This one's in Lambeau. Packers are a 3-point favorite. Brock Purdy might not play.
And then who plays?
I don't know. Who is the backup?
I don't know.
This game to me is going to come down to turnovers. Jordan Love turns the ball over too much right now. That's what he's got to work on. I think that's his next progression as a quarterback in the NFL. It's just to limit the turnovers. I don't know what the weather projection is, but I'm thinking this time of year, after what I just saw in Cleveland last night by a different lake, but you know how it gets. I'm going to take the Packers to win and cover. 3
Same.
points.
I don't. Feels like you went around the house to the back door there somehow. Everything you were talking as if you were just taking the Niners. Yeah. Okay. You're like, I don't know. This time of year it could get dicey. This is going to be a defensive game. Jordan Love turned the ball over too much. Taking the Packers. Oh, okay. Yeah, me too.
Cardinals, Seahawks. Seahawks just beat the Niners in California. They come back home, but they're a 1-point dog to the Cardinals. Look at Arizona getting some love from the Las Vegas line. This is a tough one.
I'm going to take the Cardinals. I think the days of the Seahawks home field advantage have left the building, or at least a great home field advantage. Back in the day, I would not pick this one. The only thing that is making me want to pick is like I just feel like we're going to have a clusterfuck of the AFC, the NFC West,
and that's why I'm doing the opposite. Because if the Seahawks win, then they're 6-5, along with the Cardinals, and then if the Rams somehow win, they're 6-5. That's our next game. So you're going to take Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to take Seattle. Your next one, Sunday night game, is in LA. Eagles, Rams. Eagles are 3-point favorites. I'm going to take the Rams.
Yeah. Take the Rams to win the game.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. Sean McVay will be out there in just normal clothes, not trying to be cool.
And Nick Sirianni will be like, LOL. I learned it from Mike, dude. I saw the clips of Mike this week. Jalen, am I right? And Jalen's like, don't touch me, dude. LOL. We're going to get him to jump. Well, maybe we get him to jump.
Is that a Prano upset pick of the week?
Yeah.
You think the Rams straight up win that game?
I do. I think it's and this is actually not normally I shit on the Eagles. Normally this is all about me shitting on the Eagles. I actually think that this is one of those you like you said about the Steelers. It's like, I mean, I just don't think the Eagles are a 15-2 football game. I think you're going to lose some games down the stretch. And I don't think it's necessarily because the Rams are a better team than the Eagles, but coming to the West Coast, playing in front of a bunch of Eagles fans.
Yeah, that place will be 50% Eagles fans.
Yeah. But yeah,
I've been to a Rams Eagles game. The old Coliseum with Eagles fans. They are a bunch, I'll tell you. Bunch of idiots, to put it nicely. All right, we stay in LA for the Monday night game. Same stadium, different squad. The Harbaugh Bowl is back. Ravens, Chargers. Baltimore's a 3-point favorite. This one's an interesting one. The Chargers defense finally looks sus in the second half against the Bengals. They're going against another good offense. 3 points, though. Although, not much of a home field advantage. I mean, I could hear Bengals fans cheering last week. I was hearing Who Dey chants throughout that game. So I don't feel there's much of a home field advantage. I'm going to say the Ravens win and cover.
Wow. Okay, I'll take the Chargers then. I like the Chargers. I mean, you said looked a little suspect last week in the second half. Yeah, in a game where they were up big and let them throw their way back into it. I don't think this is going to be a game where the Chargers are up big, but if they were, I don't see the Ravens throwing themselves back into it. I just think this is probably going to be a dogfight.
I agree.
I think defensive game. I'm just going to take the dog. I could see a Ravens win. I could see a kick at the buzzer. I think that's a good line, but I think the Chargers I think it's a 50-50 shot to win the game.
I wonder if they're communicating it all this week.
Yeah.
The brothers.
I think John and Jim both have their phones off the hook for the week. And you're like, well, they could just try each other's cell phones. I'm not sure they own them.
Yeah. They just talk football all the time.
Yeah.
Like all the time. They can't meet up without talking football. Or khakis.
I know the second half of that Chargers game last week was dicey, but that game gave me hope. Like that game made me feel better about the Chargers, not worse.
Well, because they didn't charge her and they actually won.
Yeah.
By the way, Chargers social media is so good. That might be my favorite NFL team social media.
I haven't.
It's funny. The end of that Bengals game, they did they made Joe Burrow, Macaulay Culkin, and he's like, everything's fine. And then they cut to Anakin Skywalker, the lightsaber. He's about to kill, like the scene where he's about to kill kids. Like I'm like, whoa, you guys mixed two videos, and they always have good ones. Like for a franchise that probably doesn't have the most followers, and they don't. I looked. They have a great social media team. Definitely neither of the Hardballs are running that. If I said, hey, I'm the if Jim Harbaugh met the kid or the chick or whoever it is who's like, hey, I'm the admin, he'd be like, you're the admiral? What?
Yeah. Your name's Adam? Is this one of those they them things?
He'd have no clue. Okay. Week 12. We got to get out of here because I got a little girl to pick up. 310-359-8365. That's the hotline.
Follow me on all social media at Joe Prano. End of January. I'm pretty much, I've got a couple shows. I got a couple local shows. If you're in LA, I'll be at the Hollywood Improv on Tuesday, but mostly sticking close to home for the next couple months. Next road show. I think a couple dirtballs came out last time I was in Montana. Come out to see me at Last Best Comedy end of January. Follow me on my Substack. Subscribe over there. That's it.
Cool. All right, guys, that's the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. And as always, stay dirty.